The Chamber of Quiet Hours, the whispering town, the town of Grenswick, was ordinary on the surface. Narrow cobblestone streets wound between crooked brick houses, smoke spiraled lazily from chimney pots, and the bells of the old clock tower rang out each evening with faithful regularity. But the townsfolk carried with them a curious habit. As the sun dipped behind the western ridge, they lowered their voices to whispers. No music played in taverns after dusk, no hammer rang in the blacksmith's forge, and no dogs barked in the square. Travelers found this silence unsettling, but locals never offered explanation. They would simply smile politely and say, "We honor the quiet hours." No one spoke of what might happen if one did not. The young scholar Edwin Calloway was not a man inclined towards superstition. At 24, he had studied philosophy at the University of Helmsworth and filled journals with arguments against folklore. Rational thought, he believed, was the only lantern in the darkness of ignorance. When his professor recommended he spend a season cataloging rural traditions for the Historical Society, he accepted eagerly. Thus he came to Grenswick, carrying notebooks, ink, and an uncheckable confidence that he could unravel the mystery of these so-called quiet hours. A warning at the inn. The innkeeper, Mistress Alder, greeted him with a polite bow. Her hands were red from years of washing tankards, but her eyes were sharp. "You'll find our rooms clean and our stews filling," she said. "But, sir, I must ask, when the bell strikes 9, you will keep your voice low." Edwin smiled. "Of course, and may I ask, why such a rule?" Mistress Alder's lips pressed thin. "Because the chamber opens, that is all I'll say." Edwin chuckled, assuming this was local color designed to entice tourists. "The chamber, a legend, I presume." Her gaze hardened. "A reality. If you're wise, you won't pry." But Edwin had not come to Grenswick to be wise. The first night that evening, Edwin sat in the common room, his journal open. The clock tower struck 9. A hush descended. Even the fire seemed to burn more softly. The other patrons moved their lips in whispers or retreated to their rooms entirely. Curiosity pricked at him. He tapped his pen deliberately against the table once, twice, thrice loud enough to echo. Every head in the room turned. Mistress Alder hurried over, her face pale. She pressed her hand over his and whispered fiercely, "Do you wish to be taken?" "Hush!" The fear in her eyes silenced him. He spent the rest of the night in his room, wondering what kind of story could inspire such terror. The old map. The next day, Edwin sought the town's small archive. Amid shelves of parish records and tax rolls, he uncovered a brittle map drawn to centuries earlier. A shaded mark sat just beyond the town's northern boundary, the Chamber of Quiet Hours. No road led there, no notes described it further. Beside the mark was scrawled in faded ink, "Speak not where silence rules." Edwin's curiosity deepened into obsession. The blacksmith's tale. At the forge, he met Bran the blacksmith, a massive man whose arms gleamed with sweat. When Edwin asked about the chamber, Bran shook his head. "My grandfather once spoke too loudly after sundown," he said, voice barely audible above the hiss of cooling iron. "He vanished from his bed that night. We found his shoes on the northern path." "Nothing else," Edwin pressed. "So the chamber claimed him?" "What is it, a building? A cave?" Bran's jaw tightened. "Ask no more." Curiosity is the hammer that shatters lives. The library in the church. The parish priest, Father Merton, kept a modest library of theological works. Edwin gained access, scanning for any mention of Grenswick's traditions. In a leather-bound volume, he found a passage written by a monk 300 years ago. "Beyond the ridge lies a vault, not of stone, but of stillness. In its presence, words become chains, sound becomes sign. Only silence is sanctuary. Beware the takers, who dwell within the hush." Takers. The word unsettled Edwin, though he dismissed it as allegory. The second night, determined to test the truth, Edwin stayed in the square after the bell tolled 9. The silence spread like fog. He could hear his heartbeat, the scrape of his boot on cobblestone, the rustle of leaves yards away. Defiantly, he cleared his throat. The sound cracked the air like glass. For a moment, nothing. Then from beyond the ridge, a faint answering whisper. It was not wind, it was voices, layered, dry as parchment. They were speaking, though he could not understand the words. Fear stabbed his chest. He fled back to the inn. The dream that night. Edwin dreamed of a corridor of stone. He walked barefoot across a floor strewn with pages torn from books, their ink smeared into nonsense. At the corridor's end stood a bronze door without a handle. Upon it was engraved, "Enter only with silence, or be taken by the echo." When he woke, his ears still rang with the strange whispers. The guide on the third day, Edwin encountered a child named Lisa playing near the ridge. She was no older than 12, yet her eyes held an uncanny steadiness. "You're the scholar," she said. "You want to see the chamber?" Edwin laughed nervously. "How could you know that?" "Everyone knows," she replied. "It calls to those who listen too much." He asked if she could guide him. After a long pause, she nodded. "But only if you promise, when we reach it, you must not speak."